BSHF 101 Unit 26 Education and Awareness. The term education is comprehensive. It has a wide scope that includes in its ambit the individual as well as society. It also includes the development of all aspects of the personality of an individual, that is cognitive, emotional, spiritual, moral, aesthetic, social and physical. Today there are several areas of concern confronting the field of education. For instance, providing education to the deprived sections, building human resources through education, development of values, etc. These issues are the challenges that have to be overcome in order to attain the goals of education. Education is a lifelong process that generates awareness about one's own self as well as the environment. This is a liberating voice that brings forth progress for the individual as well as the society. In this unit, our attempt to provide you with an understanding of the concept of education and its contemporary concerns and challenges. Concepts and aims of education. Almost every day we come across the term education, but you may wonder, what does the term actually mean? In this section we shall first discuss the concept of education, then move on to aim and concerns in the subsequent sections. Education is as old as human civilization. Its scope is so wide that it is debatable if there can be any fixed parameters within which the concept of education can be found. According to the pragmatists, the concept of education is dynamic. It changes with the changing needs of a society. But the idealists feel that education should be based on absolute values and ideals. Etymologically, the word education is derived from two Latin words, educare and educare. Educare means bringing up or nourishing a child. Educare means drawing out or bringing forth the potential within an individual. Bhatia and Narang, 1996. In ancient India, education was considered to be the means for gaining knowledge, becoming a righteous person, and finally attaining salvation. Kautilya said that education should develop character and patriotism. Thus, the social dimension was added to the concept of education. It was no longer meant for the upliftment of only the individual. Swami Vivekananda considered that education leads to the manifestation of the divine potential already existing in human beings. Thus, the function of education is not merely to fill up an individual's mind with information, but to draw out and develop the inherent potential. Western philosophers have defined education in various ways. According to Plato, education develops in the body and soul of the individual all the beauty and perfection which he is capable of, while Aristotle felt that education develops one's faculty so that he or she is able to contemplate the supreme birth, beauty and godness. Thus, we can infer that education is not limited to cognitive growth. It is comprehensive and encompasses physical, cognitive, emotional, social, aesthetic, moral and spiritual growth. The modern concept of education is considered to be a tool for development of the individual and the society. According to Indian Education Commission (IEC), education is a powerful instrument of social, economic, and cultural transformation. Delors, in his report "Learning the Treasure Within," said that education is primarily an exceptional means of bringing about personal development and building relationships among individual groups and nations. The four pillars, according to Delors, on which education is based are: number 1, learning to be. It is considerable departure from conventional educational thinking and deals with the concept of lifelong education. For leading a life of quality, lifelong education is essential. Number 2, learning to know. Education is not merely the process of acquiring knowledge and skills, but it is a preparation to acquire them. 3, learning to do. Through education, one not only acquires the abilities to take up an occupation, but also develops the right attitude towards work. 4th, learning to live together. Education develops respect for pluralism, understanding, and peace. Nowadays, the concept of lifelong education is gaining popularity. It is being realized that education is not limited to that imparted by formal agencies of education. Unlike formal education, non-formal education is flexible and open to people of different age groups and geographical areas. It is offered usually by the distant mode and is characterized by greater freedom and flexibility for the learners. Apart from the formal and non-formal education, there is also informal education, which is open and incidental. It does not involve any deliberate attempt to educate and is devoid of predetermined goals and curriculum. It continues from birth through adulthood and old age. Thus, we see that term education is comprehensive in nature. It is not limited to only academic activities, but aims at the holistic development of an individual. It extends far beyond the narrow concept of formal learning and is the sum total of the experiences that life provides. Education does not merely aim towards the upliftment of the individual, but has the twin aims of developing both the individual as well as the society. Education is provided in accordance with the goals set by the society. These goals or aims are formulated in the perspective of the social, political, and economic milieu. Some of the major aims of education according to IEC 1964 to 66 are to increase productivity, agricultural and industrial, social and national integration, modernization of the society, development of social, moral and spiritual values, etc. According to National Policy on Education 1986, education should aim to promote equality, develop appreciation for the diverse cultural and social systems, and promote lifelong education. Thus, education aims at the development of the society through that of the individuals. It generates awareness at the individual and social level. It is a liberating force that frees us from the shackles of ignorance, poverty, prejudice, and parochialism. Contemporary concepts and challenges to education. Now that you have gained an understanding of the concept of education and its aims, we shall discuss the contemporary concepts and challenges vis-a-vis education. Since the time when society realized that education is indispensable for the welfare of its citizens, formal agencies were set up to impart it. Thus, the society or state became involved in the field of education. The political and social setup of a society began to shape the goals for education. This in turn led to the determination of the impediments in achieving these goals. These impediments that hinder the fulfillment of the society's aim of providing education or threaten it in some other way are matters of concern and are the challenges that have to be overcome through education by modern India. In order to achieve this, we need to first understand them. Some of the areas of prime concern for the society in general and education in particular are discussed in the following subsections. Education and deprived sections. In the past, education was the privilege of only the rich and elite. Later on, the realization dawned that the welfare of the society depends on that of every citizen. Unlike the privileged sections that seek education, the socially and economically deprived sections have to be sought out and provided with the education. In view of this, it was sought to universalize education. The Indian Constitution too has a provision for it. Article 45 of Directive Principles of State Policy urges the state to provide free and compulsory education to all children till the age of 14 years. Thus, to overcome the challenge of providing education to one and all, the program of universal elementary education was launched. Several hindrances have come in the way of providing UEE. These include population explosion, child labor with a workforce of children from economically backward sections, apathy towards the girl child, casteism, physical isolation of the people residing in remote areas, etc. In the recent years, programs like Operation Blackboard, District Primary Education Program, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Lok Jumbis, Shiksha Karmi, etc. have been initiated to achieve universalization of education. UNICEF's efforts to eliminate child labor and UNESCO's Learning Without Frontier programs too are aimed at eradicating literacy, education and human resource development. The International Conference on Education for All in Bangkok 1990 called upon the governments of different countries to mobilize resources and invest in education. According to National Policy on Education (NPE), education is a unique investment. It develops human resources for different components of the economy. In order to tap the physical resources of a country, the development of its resource is essential. The human capital is to be developed whatever long-term planning for economic development is taken up. Education is the potential instrument for developing skilled workforce to generate material wealth. Educated workers are not only skilled but also have the right to attitude towards work. They are more adaptable to new technology. Hence, to achieve all this, investment in education is required. The budgetary allocation for education falls short than that required. A report of the World Bank in 1986 said that education is not contributing to the development in the developing world because of reasons such as inefficient use and underinvestment in education, misallocation of resources among various levels of education, and inequality in distribution of educational costs and benefits. Therefore, the right type of investment in education is necessary to develop the human capital of a country. As an old Oriental saying goes, if you plan for a year, plant grain. If you plan for 10 years, plant trees. But if you plan for 100 years, plant man. That is, invest in human resources. Education and modernization. Even today, our society is plagued by civil practices like casteism, gender bias, exploitation of the downtrodden, etc. There are many who are unaware of the health facilities like immunization, maternal and child health care services, etc. We often come across people practicing wild rites and rituals like burning of witches, killing of children to please the god, marrying of young girls to gods, etc. Religious fanaticism and communalism too are deeply entrenched in our society. Education is the only way to rid the society of such evil practices. It influences modern thinking and shapes modern and liberal attitude. It helps the society in generating and absorbing changes and in adjusting to new trends. It brings about rationalism, imperialism, humanism, and develops aspiration for better standard of living. It also ushers in secularism and democracy, which are the outcomes of modern and liberal thinking. Education also develops the capacity for industrialization, boosts agriculture, and thus attempts towards modernizing the society. However, not every sort of education aims at modernization. At times, education provided by certain religious groups develop fanatics and religious zealots who shall progress and pull the society backwards. Therefore, it is a challenge to provide the right type of education that would modernize the society. Education and democracy. Democracy is a form of governance that involves people right from the grassroots level. It makes the society egalitarian by providing the right of adult franchise to every citizen. It empowers the citizen and is ruled by the people. It is synonymous with freedom and rights for the citizens. Although democracy has roots in several countries, especially the Eastern European countries, which were once under communist rule, but this is no reason for complicacy, because in several parts of the world democracy is yet to be established. Democratically elected leaders are often ousted by military coups in some countries. Ethnic strifes, religious fanaticism, poverty, literacy, etc. are some of the threats looming over democracy. Hence, Bertrand Russell considered that education is required to save and nurture democracy. Education that develops tolerance for divergent views, respect for the worth of individuals, and liberated mind can only safeguard democracy. At the same time, democracy in its modern form cannot be successful in a country where many cannot read. Dewey had said that democracy is inconceivable without education, since education instills the qualities that are prerequisite of democracy. Dr. Radhakrishnan too was of the opinion that democracy depends for its very existence on high standards of general, vocational, and professional education. This makes the role of education clear for nurturing democracy. The abilities to think critically, objectively, and in an unbiased manner are to be developed through education. The education imparted today determines the political setup of tomorrow. Education and nationalism. For the sovereignty of a country, the feeling of nationalism among its citizens is a must. Today, several countries are facing the threat of disintegration. Countries like Yugoslavia and Soviet Union have disintegrated. Ethnic strife, religious extremism, etc. are some of the factors that analyze the disintegration of a nation. The National Integration Conference 1961 considered that national integration was a physiological and educational process that develops the feeling of unity, solidarity, and cohesion on the hearts of people. In a country like India, with cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity, only a strong feeling of nationalism can help the people in studying united. According to Indian Education Commission 1964 to 66, education plays an important role in developing national integrations. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan opined that national integration cannot be built by brick and mortar or chisel and hammer. It grows silently in the minds and hearts of the people. It is difficult to mold the thinking pattern of adults, but the attitude of children can be shaped easily. Hence, through education, tolerance, appreciation for diversity, and above all, the realization that we benefit by remaining united has to develop. To strike at the root of sectarian violence and religious bigotry, education for nationalism is the need of the hour. Education and international understanding. Along with the feeling of nationalism, international understanding is also important. Today, it is realized that the resources of the world, including knowledge, are the common property of humanity that has to be shared. The preamble to the Constitution of UNESCO declared that since war began in the minds of man, it is in the mind of man that the defense of peace must be constructed. It implies that the thinking is to be shaped in such a way that there is desire for peace. Thinking can be shaped only through education. Rabindranath Tagore and Dr. S. Radhakrishnan had emphasized the importance of international understanding, world peace, and understanding each other's fears and anxiety. Education develops the attitude necessary for peaceful coexistence and cooperation among nations. Awareness against racism, desire for peace, respect for world heritage, and worldwide eradication of diseases, poverty, and literacy can be achieved only through education. Education and environment. The pollution of environment is a matter of great concern for humanity. Rapid industrialization, urbanization, and undiscriminate exploitation of national resources wreak havoc on environment. The British Army in Malaysia and US Army in Vietnam dumped millions of gallons of defoliants and other toxins. The Gulf War polluted the land, sea, and air of the Gulf region. It is a challenge for the educationists of the 21st century to make the individuals aware about the fallout of global warming, depletion of the ozone layer, extinction of wildlife, threat of nuclear spillout, deforestation, etc. Education and values. There is a general erosion of values all over the world. In every field, social, political, and economic, there is an ongoing degeneration of values. Some of us tend to shift the blame for such erosion of values on science and technology. However, the humanitarian effects of science and technology are to be considered. Developments in science and technology gained in impetus since industrial revolution in Europe. But unlike in past, when only the privileged class had an access to power and position, today these things are within the reach of the Bergkoning middle class. Hence, misuse of power and position appears to be more widespread. Professional growth requires proper pre and in-service education. The pre-service teacher education programs are found to be lacking in several aspects like curriculum, methods of teaching, practice teaching, evaluation, etc. IEC Indian Education Council 1964 to 66, many teachers are not equipped to reap the benefits of technology in the teaching learning process. The teacher should be trained to operate and integrate technology in the teaching learning process. The plea that technological devices cannot be afforded by our schools should not hold back such training. This is because technology is rapidly reaching agricultural and dairy farms of rural areas. Delors report 1996 to the UNESCO, about which we have earlier referred to in this unit, has argued for a new kind of curriculum for teachers so that from being transmitters of knowledge and information, they become transformers of these. The teachers have to be prepared to fulfill the requirements of a technologically advanced society. They should become the facilitators of learning rather than being the disperser of knowledge and information. Proper pre and in-service training, working conditions, and pay will lead to the development of the feeling of dedication for the teaching profession. In the present situation, with the widespread value erosion, it is being realized that education can develop values. It is also felt that if values are inculcated in childhood, it would be difficult for such individuals to lose them completely when they become adults. According to NPE 1986, in our culturally plural society, education should foster universal and eternal values oriented towards unity and integration of people. Dr. Radhakrishnan considered that education is not limited to the imparting of information or training in skills. It has to give the educated a proper sense of values. Swami Vivekananda was of the view that education should develop the character and increase the strength of mind. Therefore, it is a challenge to overcome the ongoing values erosion through education. Education and unemployment. Even developed countries are facing the problem of unemployment. With democratization of education, the number of educated unemployed is on the rise. For the developing countries, it is not only a problem to provide education but also to provide employment following education. Educated unemployed not only have economic problems but also are frustrated. Hence, they are easily turned into anti-social activities. Many students following an education that is biased towards academic activities find themselves unprepared for either any vocation or develop the potential for self-employment. Gandhiji had said that education should be an insurance against unemployment. IEC Indian Education Commission 1964 to 66 had said that vocational education is considered to be inferior and is the last choice of students and their parents. The National Review Committee 1978, in the report entitled Learning to Do, suggested two broad components of education, general and vocational. Therefore, the curriculum of school education should equip the students with vocational skills. Proper planning should be done to ensure that the enrollment is commensurate with the vacancies in a particular field. Education should ensure that it does not result in unemployment but increase the gross national product of a country. Education and role of teachers. Education and teachers are two inseparable words. The teachers form the backbone of any system of education. IEC said that this destiny of India is being shaped in the classrooms. It is true that quality of education depends on the quality of teachers. Teachers today face a number of problems. Teaching as a profession is now taken up as the last recourse. The blame for this is put squarely on the shoulders of the teachers, but it has to be admitted that the remuneration, facilities, and the working conditions of teachers are far from satisfactory. Therefore, many students often do not opt for the teaching profession. Moreover, the teachers are not organized into a professional body. Hence, a code of conduct could not be imposed on them strictly. To enhance the equality of education, it is important to make teaching a prestigious and also a lucrative job. Education and curriculum. Education has certain goals which are in keeping with the goals and need of the society. The means to attain these goals of education is the curriculum. It is the sum total of the planned experiences provided to the students inside and outside the classroom. The curriculum followed in our schools have been criticized by Mudaliar Commission 1953 to 54 as well as by IEC 1964 to 66. It has been stated that the curriculum is rigid, emphasizes bookish knowledge, does not cater to all-round development, and neglects technical and vocational education. It is exam-oriented, overcrowded, and yet inadequate. Delors' report to the UNESCO too had suggested the need to review the curriculum in view of the changes in science, technology, and economic structures and encourage thinking skills. Edmund O. Sullivan pointed out that contemporary education lacks a comprehensive or integrated perspective. The curriculum is fragmented, that is compartmentalized rigidly into different subjects. It does not cater to the holistic development of individuals but develops loop-sided personalities. Therefore, the curriculum has to be revised so that it serves as an efficient means for attaining the goals of education. Lifelong education. The narrow concept of providing education to individuals within a particular age groups has changed. Today, education is considered to be a lifelong process. The UNESCO report of 1972 entitled Learning to Be also stressed the importance of lifelong learning through the influence of surrounding environment that mold the behavior and concept of life. At different stages of life, we have different types of need and interests. To cater to such needs and interests, education is required. Again, there are school dropouts and those who could not avail the facilities of schooling in their childhood. To fulfill the educational needs of such individuals, provisions for lifelong education are necessary. It is often offered through the distance mode. It democratizes education and thus makes the society egalitarian. Eager Figure in UNESCO report 1972 Learning to Be said that true equality in and through education can be achieved if education is continuous and lifelong. Hence, it is a challenge for the society to make adequate provisions to ensure lifelong education. Education and awareness. If the aim of education is to be summed up and spelled out in one word, it can be said that education generates awareness. This is the basic idea of providing education. Awareness about our own self leads to self-realization. It develops the ability to carry out introspection, leading to awareness about one's limitations and potential. Awareness about the self and social and physical environment leads to better adjustment. Awareness about rights and duties leads to one becoming a good citizen. Awareness is also needed about the social evils in order to eradicate them. Awareness gained from education about the economic situations and one's aptitudes, needs, and interests leads to right vocational choices. Awareness about values and their importance will develop individuals who are honest and prevent them from indulging in immoral activities. Aesthetic awareness. Sorry. Aesthetic awareness develops appreciation for art, culture, and all things of beauty. Individuals with such awareness will strive hard to protect the heritage of the world. Awareness about the importance of staying united helps in national integration. The realization that there is a need to live and work together, protect the environment and wildlife, which will make the world better place is giving results. Awareness about health and hygiene measures to combat diseases like AIDS, along with the realization that those suffering some it should not be made social outcasts, have gained momentum through education. Awareness about different aspects of one's life and the society ushers in progress and modernization. It leads to the emancipation of the individual and the welfare of the society. Summary. Education is a term that is comprehensive in nature. The concept of education is wide in scope. It aims towards the development of both the individuals as well as the society. The aims of education are formulated in the perspective of the socio-economic and political setup. There are several areas of concern for the modern society. It is a challenge to overcome them, and education is the key to address these areas of concern. For instance, providing education to the deprived sections, human resource development, protection of environment, nationalism, and international understanding are etc. are challenges to be overcome. Finally, it can be said that education develops an awareness about one's own self as well as about one's environment. This leads to the fulfillment of the individual and the progress of the society.